Good afternoon, brothers and sisters, and welcome to Readings with Regina. And as always, I have a lot to discuss with you today, so I'm going to try to get right into the books. But I did want to point out to you that there were veterans of American wars, most likely the Iraqi war, that went on a protest the other day in the Washington Capitol. You dig? They are protesting. Now, these are veterans, soldiers that have served in American wars, and they are protesting against the illegal war in Iran. So I wanted you to know that because this is very important time period in which all of us on earth are experiencing. You see, I have always told you that the government of this country loves to kill other people who have a different religion and certainly other people who are not white. You dig? So we have the Prime Minister of Israel and the President of the United States bombing and killing and murdering people in Iran. So I want you aware of that. I know it's disturbing, especially if you see some of the images, but you've got to be aware of that. Why? Because you are on earth at this time period. And let us not forget Gaza. And let us also not forget the wars in Africa. War is always wrong, in my opinion. There has to be ways where we can get along with people who are different from us. But I've told you, and I swear I'm going to get right to the books because I really don't want to be talking too much. This is Readings with Regina, not talking with Regina. But I got to say this. We are living under vampiric tyranny. All right. And I don't want any of you who listen to Readings with Regina to get accustomed to war, to get accustomed to killing, to think that that's the way that you are to live. It's not, especially if you believe in a higher power. Hello. All right, here we go. The first book I'm going to get to is, of course, The Slave Ship. Very important text by Marcus Rediger, because he gives us a history of how we, Black people, got to America. And that particular history is based on the very foundation of capitalism in America. So here we go. Most slave ships had at least two masts because the threat of mortality required that several people be on board who knew navigation. The chief mate was second in command, although much inferior in power to the captain. He commanded a watch and during the alternating time tended to the basic functioning of the ship. He managed the daily routine and set the crew to work. He minded the security of the vessel, making sure that the enslaved were under control. He also oversaw their feeding, exercise, and health. He often took responsibility for stowing the captives below decks. In those areas of Africa where the trade was carried on in boats, he took charge of one of them, which meant that he often conducted trade, bought slaves, and ferried them back to the ship. Captain William Snellgrave touched upon most of these responsibilities in, quote, Instructions for a First Mate when in the Road at Wida, end of quote. See, they always wrote down what they were doing, all right, to have a record. Written for Chief Mate John Magnus in 1727. His main concern was security. He advised close control, especially of, quote, ye young, strong, rugged men, slaves. I'm going to say that again. He advised close control, especially of ye strong, rugged men, slave. Black men have always been targeted. Always. Understand that, people. All right, let me get back to the book. Check their chains closely. Place sentries on guard and have them fire their arms at the evening meal to prevent, quote, insurrection. Fire their arms, try to scare the brothers, dig. Make sure none hijack the ship's boat or jump overboard. Now, see, this is what our people were doing. Hijacking some of the boats or committing suicide. Jumping overboard. Store the victuals safely and cleanly. Boil well the slaves' dabadab. Dabadab is, Lord have mercy, a mash of horse beans, rice, and corn to avoid sickness, and give them water 3 times a day. Tobacco once a week, and a dram of corn brandy on a cold evening or morning. Divert them with music and dance. Oh! Divert them with music and dance. Divert them with music and dance. My people, do you divert yourself with music and dance? I just wanted to emphasize that. Yes. He suggested that some of the enslaved be employed to clean between decks and that they get, quote, a dram every day when they do their business well. That is, get the enslaved involved in their own enslavement. Yo, get them involved in their own enslavement and reward them. Give them something extra when they do the job well. If smallpox breaks out among the enslaved, isolate the sick person immediately to prevent contagion. If sailors get sick, give them special food, sugar, butter, oatmeal. He added, when any slave dies, let Mr. Wilson with some officer be present at the time of committing them to the water, noting the day of the month and sickness which they died of. In the event of the death of a sailor, quote, take an inventory of what he leaves and nail the things up in his chest, end of quote. The chief mate had many responsibilities, as did, in diminishing proportions, the second, third, and fourth mates after him. I'm going to stop right there. And I want you to think about what I emphasize, okay? Because I emphasize things on purpose. Because from the slave ship to the Americas, it was a transformation of the African into the Negro. Okay, our next book, of course, is Incidents in the Life of a Slave Girl by Harriet Jacobs. And in the book, her name is Linda Brent. Now, you know she's run away, those of you who've been listening to me. She is absolutely run away, all right? So, and they put her children in jail. Let me remind you of that. Okay. Now, where I'm picking up, she's contemplating, thinking about what Mrs. Flint, the wife of Dr. Flint, the pedophile, what she had to say about Linda and her children. When these remarks were reported to me, I smiled at Mrs. Flint, saying that she should either kill my child or spoil her. I thought to myself, there was very little danger of the latter. I have always considered it as one of God's special providences that Ellen, that's her little girl, screamed till she was carried back to jail. In other words, the little girl preferred being in jail with her aunt than staying with these white folks that were their enslavers. And these are children. That same night, Dr. Flint was called to a patient and did not return till near morning. Passing my grandmother's, he saw a light in the house and thought to himself, quote, Perhaps this has something to do with Linda, end of quote. He knocked and the door was open. Quote, what calls you up so early? Said he. Quote, I saw your light and I thought I would just stop and tell you that I have found out where Linda is. I know where to put my hands on her and I shall have her before 12 o'clock. End of quote. When he had turned away, my grandmother and my uncle looked anxiously at one another. They did not know whether or not it was merely one of the doctor's tricks to frighten them in their uncertainty. They thought it was best to have a message conveyed to my friend Betty. Betty. Unwilling to alarm her mistress, Betty resolved to dispose of me herself. She came to me and told me to rise and dress quickly. We hurried downstairs and across the yard into the kitchen. Very often on the big houses, the kitchen was outside of the house, not in the house. She locked the door and lifted up a plank in the floor. A buffalo skin and a bit of carpet were spread for me to lie on and a quilt thrown over me. Buffalo skin. Yo, I want you to look up how white men killed off the buffalo. They killed off thousands of buffalo to the point that even today, buffalo meat is hard to get. And they killed them for no reason. They didn't kill them for their skin. They didn't kill them for their meat like the indigenous people did. They just killed them. So I didn't want to, rush over buffalo skin that was put over Linda because we're talking about the 19th century here. All right. Where am I? Okay. Stay there, said Betty, till I sees if they know about you. Now, Betty is an enslaved sister, and I'm going to give you the way the spelling is of how she spoke. They say they will put their hands on you before 12 o'clock. If they did know what you are, they won't know now. They'll be disappointed this time. That's all I got to say. If they comes rummaging among my things, they'll get one breasted assassin from this head, nigga. In my shallow bed, I had but just room enough to bring my hands to my face to keep the dust out of my eyes, for Betty walked over me 20 times in an hour, passing from the dresser to the fireplace where she was alone. I could hear her pronouncing anathemas over Dr. Flint and all his tribe, every now and then saying with a chuckling laugh, this nigga's too cute for him this time. See how we have incorporated that word nigga. White folks named us that to move us from our ethnicity, our African ethnicity, Somalian, Igbo, Dan, Mandingo. Yo! They renamed us. And they renamed us nigga. And what did we do? We took that internally and we took that among ourselves to the point that we still use that word today. All right. In my shallow bed, I had but just room enough to bring my hands to my face to keep the dust out of my eyes. For Betty walked over me 20 times in an hour, passing from the dresser to the fireplace. When she was alone, I could hear her pronouncing anathemas over Dr. Flint and all his tribe, every now and then saying with a chuckling laugh, this nigga's too cute for him this time. When the housemaids were about, she had sly ways of drawing them out that I might hear what they would say. She would repeat stories she had heard about my being in this or that or the other place, to which they would answer that I was not fool enough to be staying around there, that I was probably in Philadelphia or New York before this time. When all were abed and asleep, Betty raised the plank and said, come out, child. Come on out. They don't know nothing about you. 'Twas only white folks' lies to scare the niggers. Yo, that's the good Betty, right on. Enslaved sister that hid Linda Brent. Now I'm going to go to, where am I going? Oh, Ida. All right, there's Ida. We love Ida, don't we? Now, Ida is still talking about her visit with Frederick Douglass and his second wife, Helen Pitts, who was white. His first wife was black. His second wife was white. All right. During all these years, the bitterness never let up. Yet Mrs. Douglas, now that's the second wife, committed her quiet way of living within herself, loved by a few friends who knew and were loyal to her. Frederick Douglass has died by this time. No woman in the world ever honored more highly the memory of the man whose greatness she had loved. From the day of his death, no one ever sat in the armchair from which Mr. Douglass had arisen to cross the room when death struck him down. His library and the hut where he wrote were as he left them. No one ever sat at his place at the table as long as she lived. Let me tell you something. If you haven't visited Frederick Douglass' house, and I think it's in Anacostia in Washington, you should. And it looks just like Fred is about to walk into the door. You see his shoes, you see his violin. Oh, something to see. Anyway, every mealtime saw his plate laid. Now, this is how his wife honored him. His great chair placed just as if he were expected to occupy it. Yes. Mrs. Douglass herself never broke bread until she had gone and stood by his chair and said grace. No woman in the world ever showed more honor to her dead husband than this silent, lonely woman all the days that remained to her after his passing on. It is therefore a hurt I can never forget to know that at the first National Women's Civic League meeting in Washington in 1896, this same feeling was shown again. Mr. Douglass had been dead nearly 2 years. These women asked and were granted the privilege of gathering on the lawn of Cedar Hill, where they had pictures taken, were served refreshments by Mrs. Douglass, and were escorted through the house and saw all the relics gathered by this great man through half a century's fight for Negroes' liberty and rights. As a party of them were leaving, one woman, a Mrs. Jackson, stepped up to Mrs. Douglass and said, clear enough to be heard by all around, quote, goodbye, Mrs. Douglass. I want to thank you for permitting us to see Annie Murray Douglass's home. Annie Murray was his first wife. Anna Murray Douglass was Mr. Douglass's first wife, a black woman, the mother of all his children, the wife of his youth, and was honored by him until she died. She had been dead many years before Mr. Douglass married again. That's actually not true. He married Helen like 18 months after his first wife died. Cedar Hill was the home of Helen Pitt Douglass. That's the white wife. It was she who had entertained these women, and now the sting of deliberate insult was offered her. Because white people forget Christianity and good breeding when dealing with those who belong to the darker races is no justification for the dark race to do the same. I cannot see it any other way than that the truly Christian, well-bred person is always so, no matter with whom they come in contact with. Now, you see how Christianity has taken a hold of Negroes in this country. Can you dig it? But I want to remind you that that same Christianity was the Christianity of the enslavers, the Christianity of those who built the slave ships, the Christianity of those who were captains of slave ships. However, our girl Ida is using it as a moral compass as to how people should behave. Now, Ida doesn't know anything, she thinks anyway, about African religions, which I'm going to get to at some point in readings with Regina. You dig? But all that is good, she enforces it with Christianity, good breeding, Christianity, okay? Now, I'm going to this next book, Asada. Yes, and we know about the heroism of that brave sister. And so every time you hear right now the president of the United States saying we going after Cuba, don't you dare separate Assad from Cuba. That is one of the reasons that his Secretary of State actually wants to dismantle Cuba. I pray that does not happen. Cuba has been good to Black people. Hello, Huey was there. All right, here I go. Assad is in jail, and she's with a sister named Eva. Eva told me that she knew how I felt. She had to know. Any Black person in America, if they are honest with themselves, have got to come to the conclusion that they don't know what it feels like to be free. We aren't free politically, economically, or socially. We have very little power over what happens in our lives. Yo! In fact, a Black person in America isn't even free to walk down the street. Walk down the wrong street in the wrong neighborhood at night, and you know what happens. Eva and I got on famously. A lot of times I didn't understand what in the world she was talking about. But at times she made so much sense, I wondered if it was really the world that she was talking about. She taught me a lot about prison, and she was forever telling me some funny story about her life. Eva was a huge sister. She weighed about 300 pounds. She had very dark skin, and her hair was cut short next to her scalp. People who have accepted white European standards of beauty would find her unattractive. But to me, there was something beautiful about her, and I loved to look at her. She is one of the few people that I have met in life who have the courage to be almost totally honest. Altogether, Eva had spent about 10 years in the Clinton Correctional Facility for women in New Jersey. She had been there in the old days when the women worked out on the farm, free labor, slavery, free labor, slavery, free labor in prisons. She told me how the women were treated, that state troopers would be called in for the slightest disturbance. She was there during a riot at Clinton and had seen state troopers beat the women mercilessly. Once they had beaten a pregnant woman so badly, the pregnant woman lost her baby. And we know the origins of the police, don't we? The police, as my Panther brother, Deruba Ben Mahad, has taught us, they are agents of the state. They're not workers. They're not regular workers. They're agents of the state. In fact, I'm a return even to what I told you about the soldiers today. The contemporary soldiers that were protesting in Washington against the illegal war in Iran. It is the police that came out and arrested them. Can you imagine that? Some of them soldiers were even disabled. They were walking on crutches. But let me stay with the books. Now, I titled this episode Capitalism, Slave Ship, Christianity, that is the new religion, all right, that was imposed on the captured Africans, and the Negro Black. The Negro was the Negro then. Understand that the Negro was linguistically categorized to remove the African nature and the African ethnic groups that were congealed as one aboard the slave ship. All right, my people, I'm good on time. I like that. Now, I put this picture up, Capitalism, Christianity, and the Negro, because I really want to impress upon you that Africans were transformed linguistically into Negroes, and the pejorative nigger, nigger, nigger. That word comes out of the basement of white people's minds. Okay, now, this is a special day. This is April the 21st. And let me show you, that's little Bobby Hutton's birthday. Little Bobby Hutton was the first member to join the Black Panther Party for Self-Defense. Hello, and I absolutely wanted to celebrate his birthday, which is today. Now, he's gone now. He was killed in 1968, but I wanted you to know about that, okay? Let me see. I got a comment here. Let me bring this up. Okay. Good. Yeah, I know what she's talking about. The sewers of their mind. That's beautiful. That's poetic. That's where that word comes from. And I always want you all to remember that the savior, one of the saviors of Linda Brent, she used that term. She was calling herself that. So she's splitting herself, you dig, into something that white people have created. Okay, back to what I was talking about. Now, next to, wait a minute, let me wait. I want to show you something else. Let me see here. This too is little Bobby Hutton. All right. And his picture's being used because it's our 60th Black Panther Party anniversary this year. Oh, and in Oakland, to celebrate little Bobby Hutton Day, they're having all kinds of wonderful activities. Okay, I want to show you little Bobby again. Now you can't see it real good here, but that's little Bobby. And he's walking with Big Bobby Seale. This is back in 1968 when they went to the state capital, Sacramento, to protest against a bill that was coming up into law to strip the Panthers of their arms, of their guns. And I want you to understand this about the Black Panther Party for Self-Defense. I really want you to understand this. None of our guns were illegal. Our guns were, it was legal to carry. Okay, dig? There was no other way to stop what we then called the pigs from beating the hell out of Black people, especially Black men. Now remember, they had lynched Black men for years in this country. They beat the hell out of Black men. And you just heard me say about the slave ship, they took special care of the Black male slaves, in particular, the young ones. They watched them very carefully. They chained them unmercifully. Do you understand that? Because they wanted to kill Black manhood. Ida B. Wells even talked about that. Frederick Douglass talked about that when he was sent to the nigger baker. For those of you who have been with me since I read the narrative of Frederick Douglass. Anyway, I wanted to say these things to you. I also want to show you this because Mumia Abu Jamal, his birthday is this coming Friday. Can you dig it? And I mean this system, I mean the police, I mean the public officials, they always watched Mumia Abu Jamal when he was on the street. Why? Because he wrote about and talked about this system for what it really was. He is a Black nationalist freedom fighter. So they hated him. So anytime they could put any kind of criminal charges on him, they did. Mumia has been in jail for 44 years. That is inhumane. No one should be in jail and become an elder. Mumia is innocent, and we in Philly are doing everything we can to bring him home. You dig? So this Friday, let me try to find this. This Friday, there are a lot of activities. Let me see if I can find this. I want to put this up. For Mumia, around the country, and in particular in Philly, I'm still looking. Oh, here it is. This is what I want. Mobilization for Mumia. Go to that website. Look at all the activities that people have put together for our beloved brother Mumia. These are our heroes. These are the brothers and sisters that you should and know about and honor. Do whatever you can to free Mumia Abu Jamal. He is brilliant. I have read his book. In fact, You know, I've read his books to you, Murder Incorporated. Let me see if I can find that book. Let me see where, here it is. Murder Incorporated. Empire. That's what America is. Genocide. You see what do you see what they're doing in Gaza? Do you see what they did to the indigenous people? Do you see what they have done to Africans? Okay? And manifest destiny. That's their philosophy. I have read that book to you. I have read many of Mumia's other books, Death Blossoms and so forth. But the point is this. Let me bring this up again. Little Bobby Hutton, born April April the 1950, April the 21st. Mumia came through from the stars, from the heavens, from what we cannot see. He came through April the 24th. Hello. And some of you might say, well, why are you talking about the zodiac? Black people invented the zodiac. I'm not talking about that Greek mess that you read about in most books now, but I will tell you this. The Greeks studied with our ancient ancestors. Yes, they did. What they call Greek philosophy is actually African theology, spirituality, philosophy. Can you dig it? So when I realized that little Bobby Hutton, whom I adore, I saw the house where they killed him. It was terrible. All of the bullet holes. It looked like a million birds that just peck, peck, peck. That's the first thing that came to my mind when I joined the Black Panther Party for Self-Defense. And Mumia, have you ever heard Mumia's voice? Mumia's voice is, oh, you want to talk Paul Robeson like? You want to talk Malcolm X like? Listen to Mumia's voice. This is why he is still in lockdown. And this is the reason that I'm bringing him up. This is April. His birthday is this coming, this coming Friday, is it? Yeah. Right. Boom. Honor your heroes, people. Always honor your heroes. In this country, your heroes will not be taught to you by mainstream schools and right on up into colleges and universities. These brothers are your heroes. These are brothers, just two of them. It's more. But these two brothers that you see up top, they loved you so much that they were willing to step into the Black Panther Party for self-defense, to defend you, to honor you. So understand what that means, brothers and sisters. All right. Well, mobilization for Mumia. Oh, one more thing before I go. I forgot. What is it called? The community, wait a minute. All right, community builders. Yeah, that's what it is. I want you to look up community movement builders, okay? Community movement builders. Hope you can see it. Community movement builders. Community movement builders. They work in concert with the Black Panther Party for Self-Defense Alumni Association, okay? All right, my brothers and sisters. As always, it's been wonderful to be with you today. And before I sign off, I just want to remind you again. Oh, good. Let me show you this. Amazing events are right on, Sa'a. Oh, I love Sa'a. Yes. Celebrate the birth of Mumia Abu Jamal and free Kamal Siddiqui. Just look up his name or go to the Jericho movement. Okay, I'm going to stop right now. As always, it's been wonderful to be here with you. Always remember that I pray for you every night and every day. And of course, that includes Mumia Abu Jamal and certainly little Bobby Hutton. And always remember the Bobby Seale is still around. Big. They just named the street after my chairman, Bobby Seale. Okay, Celebrate your heroes. Keep them within the loop of what it is that you think about and what it is that you want to project onto the earth while you are here. Take your life very seriously and don't be diverted, like I talked about in the slave ship. Don't be diverted by just music and dance. All of us like to shake it on down, but don't let musicians be your heroes. Can you dig it? Now, some of this I'm probably worthy of that, but understand what a real hero is. We got to turn this earth around because these white folks want to destroy the goddamn earth. Excuse me. I don't like to curse, but I do not appreciate all of these wars all over the world. All right? Boom. Okay, brothers and sisters, you take good care of yourself and you take good care of the people that you love. And I will see you on Thursday. Bye now.